a lot of the songs on my album, like I would talk to people about them and it would mean something totally different to them. And it was really cool to experience like their ideas of the songs.
I'm Adam. Very nice to meet you. Thank you again for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. This is about you and your journey in music. And we'll talk about the couple most recent songs you put out and your EP that's coming out, what, in June?
Yeah, in June.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I always start off with born and raised. I think I saw that you went to what, Colorado State or something?
Boulder.
Boulder. Okay, Boulder. But are you from Colorado originally?
No, I'm from Philadelphia.
Okay. What was it like? What part of Philly, and what was it like growing up there?
I'm from like Northeast Philly. It's like kind of in the suburbs, and it was fun. It was like, I guess I don't know anything different, but I loved growing up in Philadelphia. And I didn't grow up with, like, no one in my family does music, and none of my friends growing up were into music at all.
Wow.
So it was just like something that I always did by myself, and kind of like I started writing songs, and I would really only show my dad. And up until probably when I was like maybe even like 18, like I really didn't tell anyone that I was like into music. So it really wasn't like I grew up like making a lot, like in a musical community.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. But your dad, you'd show your songs to your dad. So is he just supportive, or he a fan of music, or?
Well, my dad bought my sister this like bulk of guitar lessons, and then she didn't want to do them. And he was like, well, we already bought them, so one of you guys has to do them. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do them, I guess. And then I ended up really liking it. And I wrote poetry when I was young. Like I always really liked writing. So
Okay.
I would like write songs, and then he would want me to show him. He would be like, oh, like, what'd you learn in the guitar lesson? Like, I don't know. He's not a musician, but he likes music a lot. He's a big music fan. He always just was curious.
Okay.
So I would like show him, and then there would be times where I'd be like, oh, like, I wrote this song, like, do you want to hear that? And it just turned into this thing. Like every day when he would come home from work, he would like come to my room, and I would show him like a song I was working on, or like, different like songs that I liked.
That's cool. That's really cool. So you started off on guitar. Your parents didn't put you or your sister in piano lessons or anything like that when you're growing up?
Yeah, I was in piano lessons, and I remember my but way when I was really young, and I remember my piano teacher was so mean and strict.
Always. I feel
I
like
really didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I didn't think it was fun. And then when I took like a guitar lesson, he like taught me how to play like a cool song. And then I just went on YouTube, and I was like, oh, like, then I kind of started like just playing on YouTube and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is like more fun. Like I didn't associate piano with fun. And then later I started like playing chords and stuff on the piano.
Okay.
And I'll do that now, but it's like guitar was like definitely cooler.
Sure. I feel like so many people are deterred from piano because like the teacher sucks. Like all the time. It's always like the teacher was like, so strict, or so, you had to play exactly what they wanted you to do. It's weird, like this weird power
I still
thing
remember.
that
I
piano
still remember the smell of her house. I like vividly the smell of her house. It was
That's
so
hilarious. I put my older son and we put him in piano lessons. Same thing. He's like, I don't want to go anymore because this lady's house smells like she hasn't cleaned it in 10 years. And it's like,
and she would make me take off her shoes, and it was really weird.
you got to take her shoes off of
No,
her?
I had to take off my shoes.
I was like, that's creepy. That'd be the first red flag. Well, so how old were you when you got, or your sister got the guitar lessons? How old were you? Was she older or younger?
She's younger. I think
Okay.
I think I was 13 or 14.
Okay.
And I really liked it because then like I went to Guitar Center, and they had like a Taylor Swift songbook. So I got like, Taylor Swift like songbook, and then the teacher like taught me how to play every single one of the songs from, I think it was Teardrops on My Guitar, that album.
Oh, the first one.
Yeah. And then I would just take all those songs, and I would like rearrange the chords, and then that's how I would write my songs. Like I'd be like, okay, if she has like C, A minor, D, I'd be like, I'm gonna go D, C, A minor, and switch up a melody and like follow like the same structure. I'd be like, okay, I need a verse, a pre, a hook, a verse, a pre, a hook, a bridge, a hook.
Oh,
Just
wow.
like I was a really big Taylor Swift fan growing up. And
I still am.
Sheryl
I'm massive.
Crow.
It's funny, before you got on, Jenny and I were talking about that because she just saw her twice, and I'm gonna see her in Nashville, and
Oh
just that
wow.
I'm still having like PTSD from just trying to get the tickets.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
yeah, it
sure.
was a nightmare. But it worked out. That's cool though. So Taylor Swift was a big, it sounds like a big influence, obviously, on the early stuff you were writing.
Definitely Taylor Swift and Sheryl Crow. And I still really like, I love Lauryn Hill.
Hmm. Oh,
Any
I
kind of
love Lauryn
like
Hill.
female writer, I really, really like.
Very cool. And did you have, so was the first, oh, you got a Taylor Swift songbook, but like with the lessons, did you have a guitar? Like, did your dad buy the guitar and lessons, or like what was your first guitar?
My uncle had given me a guitar that was his, and it was just like this. I still have it at my parents' house. It's just like this like Yamaha guitar,
Oh.
and he
Was it
had
acoustic?
yeah, and he
Oh,
had like a
cool.
Grateful Dead sticker on it. And I remember my guitar teacher was like, "Do you like the Grateful Dead?" And I'm like, "Who? What is that?"
That's funny. Wow. Okay. So you got the lessons, and then it sounds like, so you were saying that you didn't show anyone your songs or anything, even up to you're 18 years old. So did like your friends in high school, nobody knew that you had this skill set? You just
In
kept it to
high
yourself?
It was, yeah, I guess it was more in high school that I started to like play open mic nights and stuff. And
Okay.
I guess I would kind of do that. Um, but yeah, I was really, yeah, in high school, I definitely started to do that. But yeah, I started putting out music on SoundCloud like in college, I want to say.
Okay.
Um,
And you
but
went to Boulder, like you said earlier. And what did you go there for any specific reason? Like, why did you choose to go to Colorado, or did you go there for music, or?
I wanted to. I went there as a theater major, and because I really liked in high school, I did a lot of like theater and musical theater.
Mhm.
And then I wasn't, I didn't think that was for me. So then I switched to poetry because I was like, okay, this is just what I do like always. So I should just major in it because I'm not the most school person. So I was like, okay, if I do this anyway, I might as well just um like major in it in
Right.
college. um and yeah, so I did poetry, which I loved, and I still like write poetry and stuff.
Okay. And when you said you were in college when you started putting out songs on SoundCloud, was that what was that like? I mean, to finally get the courage to be like, okay, I'm gonna put this song up on SoundCloud. Um, you had the courage to do that. What was that like? And then what was the kind of first validation you had once you were releasing songs? Like, did one of them do really well, or yeah, kind of tell me from there.
It was interesting. I don't know why I decided to do it. I just started doing it because I would like record on, I think I had Logic or GarageBand or something. Um, but I remember I went through this like breakup in college, and I wrote this song that I like actually even want to like literally like hyperventilate thinking about. It's so embarrassing. But it was like about this guy, and I just like put it on SoundCloud and then like posted it on my Instagram story. And I remember one of his friends was like, did you write that song about him? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. But that was kind of the first, I guess my intentions early on were more like emotional ammo instead of
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know. I never really, I mean, I always wanted to be a singer and an artist and a songwriter. Like that's always what I've wanted to do. But it was never like, I don't know. I didn't think about it like that until like, I don't know. I don't know. Cause no one in my world was a musician. So I didn't think that was necessarily like a valid career path. Uh,
Mhm.
so I just kind of did it for myself. And then when I realized I could do it, seriously, then I was like excited about it. But when I was like putting out music and stuff, I was just like, oh, I want to piss off this person or sing this song or whatever.
Yeah, like kind of in the same lane as what like Taylor Swift would do. She just like write a song about somebody, and it was just like not obvious, but in a certain sense, she would just
100%.
call people out via
Yeah,
her music.
exactly.
Well, when did you decide that you wanted to really do this? Was it something that happened, or a song that landed?
I had a song that I had a like a cover on SoundCloud that kind of got a lot of attention and stuff. And then I was playing a show in Brooklyn, like a house show. And my now manager was working at a label, and they were super interested. And I was like, oh, this is so weird and crazy. And then I just started, they set me up with some producers, and it was kind of over from there. I started meeting a bunch of people and really getting into it, and kind of finding, like, that's when I really started to find like who I wanted to work with. And I still feel like I'm on that journey, of just like finding the sound and chasing like the feeling of like writing music,
Mhm. Yeah. What was the cover that you did?
It was a Chance the Rapper, Kendrick Lamar, Drake mashup.
Oh, wow. Did it sound like similar to what you're doing now, or what?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it was like an acoustic, like it was like an acoustic mashup cover. So it was like really stripped back. I literally recorded it as a joke and my sister was sitting there, and then she's like, oh my God, you should just post it. And I was like, okay. So then I posted it, and it like started to like get so many listens.
oh,
I was
wow.
like, this is crazy. And then I started working with a producer in Philly, and then I just kind of started learning how to work with other people, and realizing the like importance of that, and just like networking and stuff. But yeah, it was cool. It was definitely an interesting time.
Mhm. Yeah. And you said you were playing a show in Brooklyn. What were you just down there hanging out, like, or did you used to
My
go pretty far to
friend,
try to play?
no, my friend, it was like my friend's apartment, my friend's apartment. They were doing like something like a just like a couple artists playing. It was at the Tea Factory, actually. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like a big building in or apartment building in Brooklyn, and they have like a big rooftop space. But
Mhm.
it was raining that day, so we were all in this like person's apartment. But they do like a lot of like random kind of unhinged things, like they throw parties and stuff. It was like a house party kind of thing.
Oh,
But I don't
that's
know,
cool.
someone, it was like a friend of a friend was like, oh, you should come, because I was
Mhm.
playing anywhere and literally everywhere that I could. Like it didn't matter, like I was just playing everywhere.
Okay. And so, did you move back to Philly after college?
Yeah,
And
and I was
that's
still
when
living in
that's
Philly at the time. I was like living there for a while.
okay. And that's when you did the Chance the Rapper cover. That was
Yeah.
when after college you had moved back, and you were still pursuing music.
Yeah, I actually think I might have done it while I was in college, but I met this guy in college who was like a music producer who had this like really insane studio, and that's kind of where I started to like learn how to record,
Mhm.
um which was really a really amazing thing to learn how to like start doing that, because being able to like put down your ideas just was something I really needed at the
Mhm.
time. So then I could like send it to people, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And to have that skill set, especially nowadays, right? You can record if you have a laptop, you don't need to spend a ton of money to go to some like $1 million studio. And a lot of the songs that are coming out, or songs that are becoming like viral hits, are like done on just a laptop and even like a USB mic. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
So I mean, you put out your first album, what, that was last year or the year before?
Yeah, I think it was last year.
Okay. And that's Everything's Fine, Only I'm on Fire. And
Mhm.
there's, you had a It's Depression's a massive song, at least streaming for you. Was that one that took off like for you? Was that kind of like the first one that started doing really well, or did you have one aside from that?
Yeah, I would say that like It's Depression was the first one that people were like, I don't know, because I had a few other songs. I don't know. It's weird because when you put out music, it's like everything in that moment feels like a big deal. But
Sure.
definitely when I put out It's Depression, that was the one where people, I guess, were starting to take notice and reach out. And yeah, that was also one that when I sent to my label, they were really excited about that one too.
Okay. Very
Which
cool.
I was really excited about it too. Like I love that song.
Yeah, and it's from just like other interviews I read with you that you've done. That whole what album was you did it all during like the quarantine?
Yeah, pretty much. A couple of them were written before, but it was all like kind of a collection of songs before and during the quarantine. So it's a lot of emotions.
Yeah. So where were you living in Philly when that all happened? Like in 2020?
No, I had moved to New York. At that point, I had moved to New York. I was living in Brooklyn.
Okay, so you're living in Brooklyn and then like which was not ideal spot to be during the pandemic, obviously, because that was what was on TV all the time, right? It was just like Cuomo and what was happening in New York because it was awful. Not that it
Yeah.
wasn't everywhere, but it was really pretty wild there. So are
Yeah.
you just stuck inside, like trying to figure out where, how do you even start writing the album?
I felt really, really, really lucky because I lived with my best friend.
Mm,
So we really were able to make the best of it. Like I would like be happy being with her anywhere. And then I
right.
also had some good situations with some studios and some producers where um we were kind of doing like very limited sessions, and I was doing a lot of remote sessions, and I was able to kind of like set up a little home studio. So a lot of my songs, like especially like one of them on my album that I can think of particularly, Sick, I remember I wrote that like I wrote it in my bed just singing into this mic over some like dumb like beat that I had made. Like I sampled this like weird YouTube video and I just was like singing all this stuff over it. And then I was able to bring like really write it in this intimate setting by myself. Like I remember I was literally in my bed, and then I brought it to my friend Kaya and she added on to it. And it was a really like interesting way to create music because it was like, I don't know, I was really able to be vulnerable and intimate on it. And then to bring it to someone else who obviously made it so much a million times better was just such a cool thing to watch it like grow like that. Cause usually it's just in the session and it is what it is and it's cool and it's good, or it's bad or whatever. But it was just cool to do something, to write a song for no reason other than I just felt like doing it. It wasn't like I was in a session with myself. You know what I mean? I was just like doing it. And then to bring it to someone who actually made it good was really cool. I don't know if that makes sense,
No, it
but
totally does. So it sounds like, yeah, you had no intention for it. It was just like, oh, I'm sitting here and kind of making something. And you feel
yeah,
like you were able to be even more vulnerable with that song than others just because of the situation.
yeah. And I think a lot of the stuff on the album was like that, like just like making music because like we wanted to, and the world was like felt like it was ending, and it was like, okay, so I guess we'll just do this stuff that we like to do, not like, let me set you up in a session with my friend who's made this Dua Lipa song because it's blah blah blah, you know what I mean?
Right, right. There was no like yeah, and any other not I guess motive isn't the word, but like uh you weren't being set up in a way like, oh, you should work with this person because they've done this and that and this, like all the
Yeah, it was
credits.
very
It's
much
like
it was like a reset almost. It was really cool.
that's awesome. And when putting that out, that must have been a big moment, big deal. Like, oh, here's my album. And when you were writing the songs or kind of curating what would become that album, did you know you were writing an album, or what point did that kind of register? Or was it just like, here's a bunch of songs? Oh, these are all kind of cohesive in a way.
It was that. Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
know I was writing an album. Like right now I'm kind of working on an album, and it's a different experience because I did had no idea I was working on an album. Like most of the songs were written before I even was in the record deal that I'm in now.
Okay.
So a lot of those songs were like, you know, just written because, and then I sent a lot of them to like Luke and Johnny at Plus One, and then they signed me and they're like, oh, we should just make an album. And I was like, cool, that would be really cool. I would like that a lot.
Okay. Very, very cool. And so then after that album comes out, the first was Holly then the next song, or the first song you put out after the album?
Pretty much. There was another single in there, but it was more just like a one-off thing. But Holly was really the first one that we put out after, and that felt really good to put out because I had written it only in the late summer, so it was like such a kind of a quick turnaround. Like it was really, it felt really good to put out something that felt really fresh and new to me, because usually it's like forever.
Yeah, when you have a song that's kind of just waiting around versus something like Holly that you write and then it's out. Like,
Yeah.
is there more excitement there, or like, because just having sitting on the song for a while, do you kind of just get like over it? Like I've talked to other artists that were like, yeah, you know, you're promoting something that you had written 2 years ago, and then it's like, well, this is great, but you wait till you hear whatever they're working on now, and like
I definitely, yeah, I really struggled with that on my album because, like I said, like some of the songs I'd written before the pandemic, and the pandemic felt I mean, realistically, I guess it was I would say like 2 years of that, but like it felt like forever, you know what I mean? Like time really slowed down. So like a song that was written in like 2019 was like, to me, felt like, who even is that person? Like
right.
I don't even like know I don't even know how to like fathom that. So it was a little bit hard. And then when I put out Holly, it was something that was so fresh and so exciting. And that was, yeah, it was a really good feeling. It was, but I mean, that's also personal, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really matter how I feel, as long as like, I'm not putting out the songs because I want to go listen to them, you know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't really, I guess it matters obviously how I feel, but like, it is important to keep that perspective. Like, oh, like other people are listening to these.
Yeah. You might be like over it in a sense. Not, I guess over it isn't either the right word, but
Over it is totally the right word.
okay. So
Like,
you must be like, okay, this is this, but once other people hear it, they're gonna have it's so fresh, obviously, to them, and they've never heard it before. It's like, oh,
yeah, and
like
it
I
can mean
relate to this
something
song.
different to them too. Like a lot of the songs on my album, like I would talk to people about them and it would mean something totally different to them, and it was really cool to experience like their ideas of the songs.
Yeah, actually, I interviewed somebody the other day that said that. They were like, yeah, I'll write I wrote songs, and then fans will come up to me and be like, oh, this song meant so much to me. It blah 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 blah, and then they're like, oh, like there's the fan story is a better interpretation of it than what they were personally writing about at the time. Like, I
Yeah,
just find that funny.
it's like, oh, totally, I totally meant that. I was really into my metaphors that day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly why I wrote it. In the back of the mind,
Yeah.
like, no, nothing to do with it. Well, coming from you, what was Holly about?
Holly was really like a boy cried wolf situation, like this kind of idea that you keep telling you keep telling your friends and like your mom, or like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, like when you're in a shitty relation. Oh, can I
You
curse?
can cuss. Yeah, go ahead.
If I'm in a shitty relationship, if you're in a shitty relationship and you keep telling your friends like the same, like, oh, like he left me on the street corner, oh, he did this, like by the end of it they're going to be like, can you like stop, like, and you're kind of, and Holly's kind of like, you're saying to that guy, like, I keep telling my friends, like you have, like, you know what I mean, like I keep telling, like I can't keep doing this, you know what I mean,
Right.
because like, and it's almost interesting because it's like, you shouldn't, like, I don't know, I guess the message of the song should be like, you should not do that for your own mental health. But in the song I was kind of just thinking like, oh, like I keep having to tell my friends that, like,
Yeah, it's like, it's almost like cut it. Yeah, you should have listened to them. You can cut it off then, because if you keep coming back like, oh, this person sucks, like this happened, and then the next week you're back with them and doing all these things, or
Because
you're
I
still
have
with
friends like
them.
that too. Yeah,
Oh
I have
yeah, so
friends
do
like that
I.
too, where it's like, oh, like this person, like my girlfriend did this and this and this and this, and then we're like, ugh, she's the worst. Like, you need to leave her, like this, blah, 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 blah. And then the next week they're like back together, like smiling. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
like,
then you got to fake like you didn't just hear all this other
and
shit about the
I
person.
didn't say like all this stuff, like, oh, I never liked her anyway. And now
Right.
I
Yeah, they're coming like, oh man, this happened. You're like, yeah, that she sucks. Like you should break up with her. I never liked her. And
yeah.
then next week they're at your house and you're like, oh shit, how am I supposed
I
to
was talking to my
pretend?
friend about this the other day, and we were like, oh, but the one person for me that like if I tell my mom, it's over. Like I can't,
Oh.
like, if I tell my mom like, oh, this person did this, like I just like I can't go back on it. My mom would be like, well, what are you doing? You told me this. Like my mom's just not like a bullshitter like that. So
Yeah, that's
we were talking
interesting
about that.
because she's gonna be like, say the relationship hangs on for 5 years, and then you're like, "Hey, mom, we're getting engaged" or something, and she's gonna be like, "No, like this
Yeah,
person.
literally
Remember
like,
X amount of time ago when you told me this? Like, I've already got a bad taste in my mouth about this
exactly.
person."
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a cool concept for sure because I think everybody can kind of relate to that, or having a friend that's just like complaining and complaining about somebody, and you're like, well, then why the hell are you still there? Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand.
exactly.
And then I think I is the new one.
Yeah.
Okay, and I want to hear about this song.
So that's actually the first song that I wrote after I put my album out. I think I put my album out like a couple weeks before. I was in the studio with Frank Core and Caroline Sands, and they're both just really amazing. And I was really excited to be working with them because our schedules kept mixing up. But in that day, I just like wasn't feeling it. I wasn't excited to be in the studio, even though I was excited to work with them. And
Mm-hmm.
it really like, I really think I wrote the verses like so fast. Like they just kind of came out of me. Like I knew exactly what to say. And then they were very much just like, I don't know, I was just like feeling a little like, I think that song's just about myself and like just like learning to like sit with your anxieties and like have it be a part of you and not have it be this like thing where you're like, oh, like I'm so anxious right now, I can't do anything. It's like, okay, like I'm anxious right now, but that's just temporary because like yesterday I was fine and
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow I could be fine or I could not be fine. Like, and like when you're like being like grateful for your anxieties or grateful for the down times too, because then like the other times like wouldn't feel so good, and just kind of like this like idea of balance. And I wrote the verses really fast, and then Caroline and I were kind of singing like the hook melody, and she was like, what if it was just like I think I loved you for a while? And I think I needed like to hear that and needed to tell myself that, and I really liked that sentiment. And I just was like, yeah, let's just do that. So we wrote it really fast.
Okay, yeah. The I read it. I think you were talking about this song in another thing I read, and you kind of described a sense of like, even like little victories you should celebrate. Like, oh, I got up and did this, but like be grateful the fact that you
Yeah,
did
like
these
just not
little
being so
things.
hard on yourself. Like it's so
Sure.
easy to be so hard, especially when you're an artist or someone that's like doing something a little bit unconventional. Like it's really hard to like when you don't have a 9 to 5 that's like keeping you regimented. It's really hard to feel like you always have to be doing something and you always have to be like leveling up. And of course, like it's important to be on top of things, but it's also like equally important to take care of yourself.
100%. I have that same feeling. It's like if I'm sitting around doing nothing, it's like, why I need to be doing this. I could be working on this
Yeah.
instead of just sitting in the moment and being like, it's great that I'm here doing, watching TV with my kid or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
I can
100.
find myself like, oh, there's 10 million other things that I could be doing to promote this podcast or whatever these other things are going on. And it's like, no, just
Exactly.
chill. Because if you're in a 9 to 5 situation, it's like I mean, some people can just punch out. You work at, whatever restaurant, you're done after your shift's over. Okay, let's just focus on me and what's going on outside of this. But
Yeah,
in a
100.
creative field, you're kind of always like leveling up. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So with the EP, is it complete? Do you have all the songs done? You're ready? Are
Yeah,
you still
yeah, it's
working
all
on it?
done. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, we're all done.
Okay, tell me about it. Hey Anna is the record or that EP, correct?
Yeah, it's called Hey Anna, and most of the songs I wrote with this producer that I've been working with, Constantine. His band producer thing is called Blonder, and a lot of the stuff we wrote together. And I don't know, I think like this, it feels very reflective instead of reactive. I think my album was a lot of like intimate reactions to real situations in my life. Sometimes like those songs would get me in a little bit of trouble because of like how, you know
Correct.
direct and like in reactive they were. And this feels a little bit more like reflective and a little more like, okay, well maybe I could have done this, maybe this, like just a little real. I think it's just like growing up, like you just become more um thoughtful and
Right.
less like reactive is really the only word I can think of.
Yeah. Like kind of finding your own um like I've been hearing this a lot, just kind of finding what your part of it, even if it's like a situation that wasn't really, you could feel like somebody else, it's their fault, but you go like, okay, let me like really break this down and see where I, came into play here.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just hard. Like sometimes it just feels like when you get older, like things become such less of a big deal, like even as they're happening. Like I just remember when I was young, like really young, I would just, everything felt like the end of the world. And I think it's like easier once a lot of stuff happens to you over and over again and you survive it, you're like, oh, like, it's just like experience. Like you're just like, oh, like this is going to be fine. You're going to be fine because you felt like this at this point, and you can move on. Like I've gone through a couple of real, like maybe like two really, really bad breakups, and like I really thought I was gonna like die from like the way that I felt, because I was just so like, I really am such an emotional person, and like I just really let it consume my whole body, and surviving those literally felt like I was like surviving like a physical test of like strength. And
Sure.
I just think like, I don't know, the things that kind of fuck you up can take you really far.
Yeah, no, 100%. Um, Sorry, my kids are here. I have one more quick question for you before I let you go, before they kick this door down. Well, I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I think it's advice for aspiring artists. I feel like an aspiring artist. No. um I think it's just to like write what you know, and to tell like your story from your perspective, and like because that's going to be the most interesting thing, and that's really the only thing that you have complete like perspective on. And yeah, so just write exactly what you know.